we've got an interesting event tonight. It's two guys who've been around the project from virtually the very beginning, Peter Saville and Malcolm Garrett. They kind of inspired the project in some respects. So I'm going to kind of introduce them as Peter and Malcolm. They're going to kind of pick it up from about the point when they first heard about when they first heard of the project, how they kind of stumbled across it, and why they kind of got behind it and helped support it and make it happen. So who was the first one who heard about the project first?
Well, Malcolm is going to do most of this, so I'll just be brief for a moment. But it is worth, or it's relevant to mention that Malcolm and I have been friends for 40.
We calculated it is 40 years.
For 40 years.
Sorry, I should speak into the microphone.
So moments like this, particularly back in Manchester, are quite touching to us. In fact, even when I saw Malcolm in my studio in London last week, it was quite touching because I look at him and think, he's probably my oldest friend. And to be doing something in Manchester is even more kind of poignant, considering what our kind of hopes and dreams and ambitions were when we were 12. When we were like really young and sharing our lunchtimes at school together in the art room, and which was where we'd usually meet. And this was, let's see, if I was 12, it was 1967. So in the late 60s, Malcolm and I would share the art room at St. Ambrose College in Hale. And we'd do sort of imaginative things like painting album covers, as 12-year-olds do. So what then came to pass over the next 40 years is a bit exceptional for Malcolm and I. And any moments that bring us back together actually here in Manchester are quite unique. So that's a bit of background. With regard to Sharp, I have to say I'm sort of super thrilled to be here today. The transition in this place is just incredible. Keith first mentioned it to me, we think about 4 years ago. He sent me an email mentioning a great big kind of industrial warehouse north of Manchester that could be a fabulous place for the digital future. And I just thought, oh, well, that's another one of those ideas that could be but will never happen. And then a year later, I found myself wandering around the building with him and Ken, who he works with, and I still thought it was a great thing that could never happen. So to actually be here now, and it has happened, and for it to be so cool and brilliant, and a rehabilitation of an old building, a new building would have been maybe easier in some ways, but I really like the fact that it's a former building that has got another use. So this makes me think of the Hacienda, and as a way to reinterpret the heritage of Manchester and adjust it and develop it and bring it forward into the now.